Hello, John Rhys Davis here, Salah in Indiana Jones, and Gimli in Lord of the Rings. Give 'em hell, 3 guys and a flick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Thanks for the espresso maker and the bag of shit. Welcome back. You are listening to 3 Guys and a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, Nothing But Trouble. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from the courthouse in a small village called Volcovania, my name is Don. And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asleep after watching this movie.
Yeah, I hear you. You are not wrong. And to my left, we have the professor, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
How you guys doing tonight?
Groovy. And yourself?
Oh, I can't complain.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I could, but no one will listen. So there's that.
I am actually a little sore and tired.
Why is...
Because I had one hell of a weekend.
Oh, you did you?
Yes, we had Emerald City Comic-Con last weekend, where we got to meet Chris Evans, we got to meet John Rhys Davies, as well as some other people. So some possible exciting stuff coming to the show in the future.
You actually met John Rhys Davies?
Yes, I actually went up, got his autograph, and talked with him and got him to do the recording.
Oh, I thought you got him to do the recording whilst you guys were doing the picture.
No, sir.
No, I went up and paid for an autograph, and I stupidly didn't bring my action figure. I just had him sign a picture, but yeah, I got to chat with him for a while.
Oh, wow.
Nice guy.
There you go. Sala. Love me some Sala.
And Gimli.
Oh, yeah. It's the beards.
And the guy from Sliders. Arturo.
Oh, is that who he is in Sliders?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we?
We're trying to talk about anything but this fucking movie. This movie comes to us via the Bronco helmet, and I guess you could put an asterisk by it or chalk this up to kind of a snafu, because this movie was submitted to us by Tatiana in behalf of her brother Tyler, who I was told that he really liked this movie. And so when we saw it, we're like, what the fuck? So we're reviewing it. As it turns out, when Tatiana and I were talking about it, she actually meant Big Trouble in Little China. So, yeah, here we are about to review this gem of a movie. So, Tatiana and Tyler, this one's for you guys.
Yeah, enjoy.
Released on February 15th, 1991, Nothing But Trouble was directed by Dan Aykroyd, story by Peter Aykroyd, and it stars Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Demi Moore, and a bunch of other actors.
How'd this flaming shitbag of a movie do, Don?
This flaming shitbag of a movie was made for $45 million and actually went over budget by $5 million and brought in $8 million.
This is the only movie ever directed by Dan Aykroyd. And when he's asked if he ever has any regrets in his life, he says this movie.
Yeah. From beginning to end, I didn't understand what I was watching. So
this movie, in my opinion, was trying to be a combination of two things, obviously comedy and horror. And because it was so stretched out, it didn't get either of them right.
Right. And rumor has it Dan Aykroyd turned in a cut that was a little bit more graphic and a little bit more dark, which made it more horror. But the studio started meddling and reshoots had to happen. And after I read that, remembering what I watched, it makes sense. It looked like it was recut or something.
He had all kinds of problems from start to finish on this movie. First of all, he didn't even want to direct this movie, but they couldn't find another director. He even asked John Hughes, his friend John Hughes, to direct this movie, who I think read the script and said, no, I'm not. And partly because John Hughes doesn't like to direct anything that he doesn't write.
Right.
But he also said, no, he wasn't going to touch him, but he did give Aykroyd some directing advice.
And they even asked John Landis to direct this.
Mhm.
And John Landis was just coming off of that tragedy on the Twilight Zone movie where the
chopper accident.
yeah. And even he was like, no, thank you. I'll stay unemployed.
Mhm. And then dealing with the actors. First of all, we've all heard Chevy Chase can be a nightmare to work with. And all of the actors, I think except for John Candy, had just nasty things to say about Chevy Chase and how he portrayed himself on set. John Candy, of course, everybody loved. But Dan Aykroyd tried to cater to a lot of the actors. And John Hughes finally had to tell him, stop doing that. You're letting them improvise all their lines. You're losing the story. You're letting them watch video of themselves while they're acting, so you're not getting a good performance out of them. Just all kinds of just nightmares with this filming.
I can't imagine John Candy having an ill word about anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I also heard that Chevy Chase would occasionally call people at night and apologize for his behavior that day.
Sure.
You know, I think another reason why this movie probably didn't do well in the box office was because it came out the same weekend that Silence of the Lambs came out.
Oh, really?
Yes, same weekend.
Oh, wow.
And Silence of the Lambs went on to become the third highest grossing movie that year.
And sweep most of the Oscars, if
Yeah.
memory serves me correctly.
Well, okay.
At least the big five.
Oh, okay, but this movie was nominated for 6 awards, and it did win one of them.
Which awards was it nominated for?
Razzies. It won. It won for supporting actor, and it was nominated for picture, actress, supporting actress, director, and screenplay. So, bam.
Yeah, so for anybody who's not familiar with the Razzies, that's the worst of. So worst supporting actor, worst whatever.
So this movie making its $8 million the box office year. Here are the other movies that made it $8 million, and the rest of these names, they're equally forgettable. Warlock, Late for Dinner, Body Parts, Black Robe, and Bingo.
The only one I recognize there is Warlock.
And I liked that movie.
Of course you did. You probably liked Witchcraft, too. With Tawny Katane, the gal from the Whitesnake video,
I think so.
and the Ouija board.
Yeah. I put that right there with The Craft and
Oh,
all
for
those movies.
fuck's sakes.
I think that the only reason why this movie has anything of an appeal is because you have our 4 main actors. They were big names at the time. You know, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, and Demi Moore. These were all big names.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at the one sheet and you look at the names, you're like, oh, this is going to be funny. Chevy Chase, yeah, we know he's kind of a prick, but a lot of his movies, he relies on his physical comedy. And in this one, I felt like it was held back. And I felt like he was trying to do something different, which was kind of a little bit off-putting.
I hear you.
And then Dan Aykroyd and all that makeup, I think he clearly carries this film, but I mean, there's not a lot to carry. So,
Well, when I saw the original cast movie, and I will admit, this is the second time I have seen this movie because I have rented it once before. But when I first saw the cast in this movie, I saw Chevy Chase and John Candy, and I'm thinking, are we going to get the same kind of, acting, the partnership like we did from Vacation when they were in it together? And no, we did not get that. And for Chevy Chase, I didn't know if he was trying to channel Fletch. I didn't know if he was trying to channel Griswold. I didn't know if he was trying to do Spies Like Us. He felt like he was trying to just do a merger of all those characters.
yeah, this felt like a huge mess from the beginning. And I think one of the only bright spots is John Candy. Every time he's on screen, I smile. And he plays his character with such love, and any character. He's the bright spot for me of this film. And I kind of really expected more from Demi Moore, but my God, she's awful in this. And there's a scene where her and Chevy are about to hook up, but then she starts crying or freaking out for no fucking reason. It made no sense. And yeah, it was just kind of hard to watch. What did you guys think of Demi Moore in this?
Well, we got no background on any of the characters, so we didn't know why she was so stressed about getting to Atlantic City. Like, was it an ex-boyfriend? Was it a deal gone wrong? What was going on with her? And I agree with you, she was all over the place. I couldn't get any connection with her. And, you know, I got to admire the 80s look and the 80s hair, and she is a great actress, very nice to look at. But other than that, I couldn't get into the character at all.
What'd you think of Demi?
It was kind of weird the way her lipstick almost glowed
Yeah.
for some of the camera shots. Like it was radioactive or something. I don't know. She was okay. You know, she's coming fresh off of Ghost, where she had a really strong performance. And for her to be in this slapstick, goofy, you know, crazy clown car ride of a movie, I don't know. She just didn't fit.
And I didn't buy any of the chemistry between her and Chevy Chase.
Yeah, me neither.
So
They had some other actresses in mind who had comedic backgrounds, and I think it would have been better. Like Catherine O'Hara.
yeah.
She would have been a lot better in this movie with some comedic timing.
So do you guys have a favorite Chevy Chase movie? When you think of Chevy Chase, what do you think of?
Caddyshack.
Totally.
I want to say Christmas Vacation.
Christmas Vacation, really?
That's one of my favorite ones, the Clark Griswold. We watch that every year.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to be said about Christmas Vacation.
Mhm.
Although I think the first one
Vacation.
is probably the best one.
It's the strongest.
Yeah, but I mean, if we go back and look at it now, it's questionable. But that's another podcast for another time. Favorite Dan Aykroyd movie?
You know, I got to go with Ghostbusters. And then a strong second is Blues Brothers.
I'll probably have to say Ghostbusters as well.
Yeah, I would say Ghostbusters or Trading Places.
Trading Places is another strong.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. John Candy.
John Candy. Oh, boy. You know, he's had a ton of stuff that he's done. And, you know, it's really quality stuff, too. You know, you've got, he's great in Home Alone. He's so much fun as Uncle Buck. Spaceballs, you know, talking about, you know, some of his other things. He, you know, it's a little part that he plays in Vacation. Stripes. I liked him in Brewster's Millions.
So,
Joe versus the volcano.
Tom Tuttle from Tacoma, Washington.
so do you have a favorite
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
comic book guy?
Oh, it's a tough one, but the one that really jumps to mind is Uncle Buck.
Yeah, that's definitely in the air for me. But I'm gonna have to say it's either Spaceballs or Brewster's Millions.
I was right leaning towards Spaceballs.
I'm a Mog, half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend. Favorite Demi Moore movie?
You know, I haven't seen that many of her movies. You know, she's had a couple of good things. Like, you know, we mentioned Ghost. One Crazy Summer, she's fun in that. St. Elmo's Fire, she's sweet in that. You know, that's early on in her roles. About Last Night, I don't know. I guess I don't necessarily have a favorite. G.I. Jane.
I was about to say
Few
my favorite would be G.I. Jane.
Few Good Men.
Yeah,
She's good, man.
I really enjoy her in A Few Good Men. So it's either that or G.I. Jane, and of course Striptease. But,
Of course.
of course.
We had a first movie appearance by someone in this movie.
Yeah, and you know, I watched the trailer and the song came on, and I went, "Oh yeah, now I remember."
Digital Underground.
Yeah, and it all came back to me,
And Tupac Shakur is
Yep.
his first ever movie appearance.
yeah, because he was part of the Digital Underground at the time. It's not long after that he goes solo and becomes who he would ultimately become. So that was fun to see him in, and I love the fucking song. Same song, I loved it when it came out, and I love it today. So that's probably the only sound clip we're gonna get for this movie as I play the music. It's just gonna be the Digital Underground song.
Did you know that during the making of this film, Dan Aykroyd had to be hospitalized?
Why? Because he took off his fucking nose?
No, he was so stressed and so panicked about this movie doing well and the fact that he had never directed before that he just basically, the stress put him in the hospital.
Yeah, well, that shit'll do it. It doesn't surprise me. This thing is a fucking mess.
Yeah, I just feel bad for the guy because I think he is a creative talent. I think he is a great actor. I think he's got great comedy timing. He just took on a project, and I think he took on too much.
Yeah. And what's kind of sad is he wrote the screenplay.
Yeah, with his brother.
Yeah. And he wrote Ghostbusters. I'm pretty sure he wrote
Blues
the Blues
Brothers.
Brothers.
Yep.
I mean, so he knows how to write. And I'm curious to know if his final script that he turned in is anything close to what the shooting script became.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, like as the professor said, the original version was much darker. And also from what I've heard, Chevy Chase tended to ad-lib a lot and just got away with ad-libbing a lot of this movie that kind of ruined, I think, the directions it was going.
oh, sure.
Is it about that time?
Why, yes, boys. It is about that time. Welcome to another edition of Master Movie Trivia. I am your reigning champ. You may call me the champ. I have compiled 5 questions and 5 questions only to test your knowledge of the movie we are reviewing. Each question could be worth multiple points, so if you know the answer, say it. And please wait until I finish each question. Let us begin. What does Judge Alvin say Chris's profession is?
Banker.
Bonus question. What is Chris's actual job title?
Investment.
Yeah, he's an investment consultant.
Financial publisher.
Oh.
Financial publisher.
He puts out a newsletter.
Yes, he does. Question number 2. What late rap icon has a brief appearance in the movie?
Tupac Shakur.
Bonus question. What is the name of the group Tupac is performing with?
Digital Underground.
Question number 3. Michael Kamen, who did the score for this movie, also scored 5 of the movies reviewed by the 3 guys. Name any of them.
I can't.
Dodgeball.
Michael Kamen? No.
No.
I got nothing.
Roadhouse, Iron Giant, Die Hard, Die Hard 2, and our beloved Lethal Weapon.
Well,
He's the guy that does the... I thought for sure you would have noticed that. All right. Question number 4. What are the names of Alvin's deformed grandchildren?
Bobo and Little Debbie.
Bobo is correct.
Little Devil.
Little double.
Little Devil. Tie
Well,
goes
it's not
to the
Devil,
runner.
it's Devil.
Little devil.
It's Debull.
Yeah.
Debbull. Question number 5. What is the name of the village Chris leads the foursome into?
Vulcanvania.
Vulcanvania. Well done, boys. Not too bad for a movie that, well, it was kind of really hard to come up with those questions. But by my math, you guys actually did tie this week. So, neither of you are any closer to movie immortality.
Been all around the world. Been all around the world.
While hosting a party in his Manhattan penthouse, financial publisher Chris Thorne meets lawyer Diane Lightson and agrees to escort her to consult a client in Atlantic City the following day. Thorne's clients, obnoxious but wealthy Brazilian siblings Fausto and Ronaldo something or other, meet up with them and invite themselves along. Chris takes a detour off the New Jersey Turnpike, ultimately ending up in the rundown village of Vulcanvania. After running a stop sign and subsequently attempting to escape pursuit Chief of Police Dennis Vulcanheiser, the group is captured and taken before his 106-year-old grandfather, Judge Alvin Vulcanheiser. After Chris offends Alvin, the yuppies are locked in a hidden room under the courthouse to be judged the next day, and they overhear Alvin violently executing a group of convicted drug dealers in a deadly roller coaster named Mr. Bone Stripper. So this movie opens up and we get to meet Chevy and Demi, and they are, upscale Manhattan residents. What did you guys think of the whole opening bit here?
It was kind of interesting to be able to see the Twin Towers all lit up in that New York City flyover.
That's what I thought too, as it was starting, and every time they showed the city. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The one interesting thing I noticed was, filming back then versus filming today. Do you notice how unsteady the shot was? it was obviously done in a helicopter, and it was just bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
So we meet Chris Thorne. He's an instant prick, and we can tell, oh boy, you got a 2x4 shoved up your ass.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is, and maybe it is because Chevy Chase is kind of a dick, but he kind of plays that asshole character in every role he does, so I tend to think that that's him coming out into the role.
I was trying to decide, is he really being a prick, or is he just being overly sarcastic? I mean, is that kind of the same thing? Like, was he putting himself above everyone else, or was he just being a jerk?
Yes, to both.
Okay.
So we ride the elevator up with Diane. She starts sobbing, and next thing you know, he invites her, if she's feeling up to it, to come up to his party he's having that night.
So when they're in the elevator, is it Chevy Chase that has all of the paperwork? And does she just happen to see the folder, or was she holding the folder?
She was holding it.
When she got in?
It was her paperwork.
Okay. Because I must have blinked or fell asleep 5 minutes in. And for some reason, I thought she grabbed it from him and it was his. And so when she gets out and just takes the dogs and leaves them with all that other stuff, I'm thinking, why would she even do that? How would she know that? But apparently I was wrong.
Well, I think it was obvious from the start that this was going to be our two love interests, that this was the two supposed to be the pairing. Immediately from the start, I did not feel any chemistry between the two, and I almost felt like he looked like her father.
I'm glad you said that because I kind of felt the same way, but mostly because there was just no chemistry there. I don't know if it's Chevy Chase or if it's Demi Moore, because in other movies, they both have chemistry with other people. So, yeah, it was kind of a weird pairing. And so now Chris is having a party up in his penthouse, and Demi Moore, after reading the paper and freaking out and making a phone call and kind of starting a plot line that never gets resolved, she goes up to Chris's apartment because she figures he's got money, he could probably help, and so she goes and starts questioning him about a case or something that's going on in Atlantic City.
Well, there's a lot of oddity in this movie, but one of the oddest things is she's just met this man. She's just going to his party where she knows nobody, and one of the first things she asks him is, "Can I borrow your car?"
Yeah.
I thought that just kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, it kind of was. And he was like, "No, you can't borrow my car, but I could go with you." And this is also where we meet, I guess, they're Chevy's clients. Do they ever say that they're his clients?
Yeah, he says that he manages their money or something, or helps.
Oh,
them,
that's right, because
helps them with investments.
Because they're Brazilian heirs,
Yeah.
is what he calls them. And so,
Fausto and Ronaldo.
yeah, brother and sister.
Yeah,
Yeah, he calls her baby, like it's his girlfriend.
sort of.
Am I the only one that thought that was weird?
Yes.
They really stuck out this whole movie. They really kind of irked me the whole movie.
So, anyways, we are introduced to these two annoying characters,
They're suck-ups.
and they want to go on this road trip too, and so they kind of make a agreement to go together. But Chevy's like, "Nah, fuck that. I don't want to take these two. Why don't you, Demi, meet me in the garage at noon tomorrow?" So that was really quick, and I still have no idea what the fuck is going on in this movie.
Well, I love too that we can then go to the next morning, and we don't get to see what happens after that. But Chevy Chase is really hungover. He doesn't want to go on this trip anymore. They left that whole chunk of the story out of what happened the night before to change everything.
Oh, he got fucking super hammered. What else did you want?
Yeah, but we don't see him even have one drink.
But does that mean he can't get super hammered?
No, but I'm just saying they left out a piece of the story there.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, you just this bit he kind of reminds me of Ty from Caddyshack in this one. When he comes down with the glass and he's all hungover, he kind of has that Ty swagger. But he comes out and he's like, "Fuck this! I don't feel good. Demi's gonna come down, just give her my car with my compliments and blah blah blah." And then Demi Moore comes down and she's looking all good, and of course Chevy changes his mind. So I guess the bell guy, or the guy who's with Chevy at that moment, that's Dan Aykroyd's brother.
Yeah, that was his cameo.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And of course, the garage door goes up, and who is standing outside the garage doors?
Fausto and Ronaldo.
And so we're hitting the road, and they're driving along, having some sort of conversation.
Fausto, he insists he wants them to stop because they made a picnic basket and they want us to have a picnic. And he's like, we're on the turnpike. There's nowhere for us to have a picnic.
Right. And then so they start going through this town, this village,
Yeah, some turn off that's going to turn back onto the freeway.
and they and Chris is coming up to a stop sign, and he kind of rolls right through it. But John Candy, being the chief of police of this village, or he's not even the chief of police. What
He's
is
the
he?
village constable.
That's what it is. It's a constable. He starts following Chevy Chase's character, and I wrote in my notes that I couldn't even be bothered to bring down. I wrote in my notes, and the chase is on. You know, Fausto's like, dude, you're in a Beamer. Fucking drive it like it's a Beamer. Outrun this guy. And so they start, taking off.
And of course, John Candy's vehicle has those little flames and everything, and it's souped up.
You know what that kind of car reminds me of when the flames come out like that? The Batmobile.
Mm-hmm. The original.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
So as the Beamer pulls away and we have the police car keeping up, now we are somewhat rattled because he's keeping up. And what are we going to do now?
right, and he's kind of freaking out, and
I did appreciate John Candy's little bit here that he's on the little megaphone basically saying, you're driving at unsafe space, speeds through a populated area. Please slow down. And just all calm and everything while he's chasing him.
yeah, he kept having that commentary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then he engages a detour road stop that forces him onto a mining road.
I love all the little gadgets that John Candy has in his cop car. He has a fucking James Bond mobile,
Pretty much.
And I kept thinking to myself, is that like remote controlled, or and why doesn't he just close the detour thing and not have them turn off? They'd have to stop, right?
Well, I'm guessing that he knew he was leading them to the roadblock.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, he knew that they would end up in that one spot.
Right. And so they're driving along, and then the other deputy, or constable, if you will, is waiting for them, and she's got a shotgun, and so...
No, it's an M16.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. It was an M16. I kept dozing in and out of this movie. A lot of it's kind of a blur for me, so...
Well, that makes sense because Dan Aykroyd actually said a lot of the ideas for this movie, like the two giant grown babies, all came from his dreams.
Oh, sure. And so John Candy pulls over Chevy Chase and
Tells him we're gonna head back to the courthouse.
right. Chevy Chase gets out of the car. He tries to pay him off, and you knew that John Candy wasn't gonna take it. He looked like too much of an honest cop, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought this bit was weird too. Have you guys ever been pulled over and the cop told you to follow them somewhere?
No.
I've never been pulled over in that following someone, but I have been pulled over in just some podunk town where the cops knew they could get away with anything because I wasn't going to come back to fight any ticket or anything. So I've had that kind of experience.
What kind of ticket you get?
Basically, I was pulling out of a parking lot, and the cop was pulling out of a parking lot the next one over. And as I pulled out, he says I pulled in front of him, and so he gave me a ticket for cutting him off.
How much was it?
I think it was $130 for cutting off a police officer who hadn't even pulled out of the parking lot when I made my turn.
Damn.
But yeah, I pulled in front of him.
People be crooked, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess Dan Aykroyd said that this was inspired by an experience that he had getting pulled over and forced to follow back to a police station.
Yeah, that just seems weird to me. But anyways, it happens. And so Chevy Chase and company follow John Candy.
What do you think of the town as they're driving through it?
It didn't look like it belonged in New Jersey. It looked like it should have been like Transylvania or a Eastern European town.
Right away, I got just these, I don't know if it's from PTSD or what, but flashbacks of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, well.
And some of those sequels
Yeah.
where people are forced off the road and to follow and
Yeah, definitely a feel there. When we first see the houses they're pulling up, I thought of Psycho.
Yeah, you are entering Bizarro world now.
Yes. And so they go into this house, and that's where I really felt the chainsaw vibe. And especially when they come up to the dinner scene, which is coming up pretty soon, that really, really reminded me as well. But they come in, and this is where we meet the judge,
Alvin Valkenheiser.
played by Dan Aykroyd, in heavy, heavy, heavy makeup. What did you guys think of his entrance? And actually, what did you guys think of Dan Aykroyd as this character?
You know, I was struck by all of the tchotchkes and knickknacks that we see, and I was wondering about the setup of all of this stuff. It's probably all practical. All of this junk clutter put together, stacked up, and all shoved into this place, and so having this bizarro world where we see the judge, he's very much in his element, and yeah, he looks like he's old and disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, I got the impression right off, they kind of say it, that he, in another life, was an engineer. So, of course, he's created all these tinkerings all over the place. But when they announced he was 106 years old, I'm like, how scary is a 106-year-old?
Well, he moved around okay for 106.
And when he started taking off his face later, too, yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was hard to get into, and I was really distracted by it. And I couldn't hear Dan Aykroyd's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Did he sound like Dan Aykroyd to you guys?
No, I think he got lost in the character. I think it felt like they created a character, just not a great one.
The dialogue was kind of funny, and he had a couple of bits here and there, but I thought of the grandpa from Texas Chainsaw, or the patriarch of a cannibal family or a weirdo family.
Hill has eyes and
Hills Have Eyes?
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is strange when you look at, how Dennis seems to be so calm and put together, and he is very much trying to help these citizens out by they're fine. Just don't rile them. There were no drugs, there were no guns, and he's just trying to help them out.
Yeah, he kept telling Chevy Chase, you just ran a stop sign. I'm not even going to mention the speeding, because he knew he'd get them all fired up. And as it turns out, Judge Elvin has a thing against big city bankers.
He also doesn't like cussing and rude behavior.
Right. And when Chevy Chase comes in, I think it just rubs Elvin the wrong way. And once he finds out that he's a financial publisher, or a banker, as he keeps calling him, he now has it in for him. And in the meantime, Demi Moore is like, dude, just be fucking cool and let me do the talking and we'll be okay. But no.
Pulls out a cigar.
And has to be all arrogant and cocky.
Yep.
I kind of got an impression, if I was trying to figure out where Dan Aykroyd was coming when he was writing this, is that this almost represented like a judge deciding, are you going to go to heaven? Are you going to be stuck in purgatory? Or are you going to hell? And, like when the musicians come in, they get to go to heaven and they get to leave. When the drug dealers come in, they go to hell. Well, he's on the 50-50 with the banker because they're not bad people. He just doesn't like bankers, so he keeps them in purgatory until he decides what he's going to do with them.
Yeah, he decides to have them stay for another appearance tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Right. And in the meantime, John Candy pulls over another car. Did you guys notice it was one of the Baldwin brothers?
Yeah.
Danny Baldwin?
Yeah, Daniel Baldwin.
Daniel.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to get killed so quickly, but
Well, yeah, I didn't see this coming at all. I didn't know that this was the kind of movie we were going to. And they get pulled over. They have to follow them the same way, but this time
But they also pull a gun.
Yes. And they get thrown into what was called the
Mr. Bone Stripper.
And yeah, talk about a dark turn.
Dan Aykroyd actually bought a roller coaster for this.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and that was actually a real roller coaster that they rebuilt on the set.
Oh, nice. So he just kills them because they're assholes. So don't pull a gun on John Candy.
That was a pretty good machine to really just strip it all down to the bones.
And they just spit the bones right out, looked all polished and perfect.
My question was, do you think the meat was what went into the hot dogs?
Oh, probably.
I was trying to think, looking at those hot dogs, I kept trying to think, is that the meat of the people that they kill?
Maybe.
I came for the party to get naughty, get my rocks on, eat popcorn, watch you move your body to the pop song that I'm singing, ding-a-linging, funky beats ringing, everybody swinging.
Chris,
in the place
Diane,
as
and
I
the
kick
Brazilians attend Elvin's dinner, learning that Elvin is holding them there as retribution for a coal deal which the Vulcanheiser family blames for their poverty, as Chris keeps correcting him that he's a financial publisher and not a banker. The group attempts an escape, but Elvin's granddaughter Eldona captures Chris and Diane. After being chased by Dennis's cousin Miss Perda, the Brazilians escape by cutting a deal with Dennis, who decides to escape with them. Elvin holds Chris and Diane hostage, but they eventually escape, get lost through hidden hallways and slides, and become separated. Escaping into the property's salvage yard, Diane meets and befriends Elvin's severely deformed grandchildren, Bobo and Little Debu, who are barred from living in the house. However, she also notices Eldona destroying Chris's BMW 733i. Elvin catches Chris sneaking into his personal quarters and punishes him per house policy, which decrees that Chris must marry Eldona.
So what did you think of this dinner scene with the train with condiments and the hot dogs?
Well, first off, their choice of dinner, spot on, right? Who doesn't love fucking hot dogs? Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Hey, man.
But that being said,
Would you have eaten a hot dog from that house?
it didn't even look cooked, man. And now that you bring up the whole could have been body parts, I don't know. And I had a real big issue with this scene because he only put mustard on his hot dog. And you both know me. That shit won't fly. It's either Heinz ketchup or fucking nothing.
Julie just puts mustard, and so does my dad.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say what I want to say because I respect both of them too much, but all I'm saying is Heinz ketchup, okay? This dinner scene, I got two vibes from it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as we said, and Temple of Doom. Did anyone else get a Temple of Doom vibe?
No.
I don't think I got a Temple of Doom, but I definitely got the horror vibe.
Yeah, TCM all the way.
Like when she takes the thing with ants, it totally reminded me of like a Snake Surprise or Monkey Brains or something. So, but that's just where my head went. What'd you guys think of this whole dinner bit?
Did you catch the penis nose?
No, I read about it afterwards, but I didn't look
when
at
he was
it.
eating the hot dog and he turned towards, I think, Chevy's character, his nose was all of a sudden wrinkled up like a penis.
Oh.
It stuck out like a boner.
Oh, really?
It is so clearly a penis head.
How funny. And I completely missed it. Again, I could have just been in and out of a nap.
Yeah.
What stood out to me was as Dan Aykroyd's eating this fucking hot dog, the mess on his face with the mustard and it was just fucking gross, wasn't it?
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, if you're building a horror movie that you want to kind of give the hint to that this might be people parts or something, he should have gone with the ketchup because it at least would have looked like blood on his face.
Oh, sure.
Well, Ronaldo and Fausta, they have had enough. And out the window they go.
Their whole side storyline of them swimming through the toxic water, which again, nothing ever comes from it. Them kind of, then all of a sudden bargaining with Dennis and all that. It just seemed like a big old, like inflated tire. There was nothing to it. Nothing really came of it. You think there would be some twist or turn. Nope, they just got away.
No, they just disappear from the fucking movie.
And we lose Dennis for pretty much, except for one packing scene. We don't get Dennis the rest of the movie. I thought he would come back.
Well, he's too busy and dry being the sister.
But I thought he would at least come back at some point and like be a big hero in the end or something.
As I'm watching this or trying to watch this, I noticed his absence. And I had to think back. I had to stop and think, what the fuck happened to John Candy? And then I went, oh, he escaped with the Brazilians. That's how memorable and quick their character arc and story are.
Yeah, because of all the different characters, he was the most redeeming of them, that he was just doing his job and he was the most honest. He was trying to help them. I thought there'd be more to his character and more to his story.
Agreed. But there wasn't. And like we said, he just kind of disappears.
Yeah. And then we get the Donna, or whatever her name is, who's just a mute.
Right.
So they're taken to their room for the night, and they try to fall asleep. Well, they're just starting to fall asleep, right? And then we have the door suddenly open.
Right. And it was this bit that it really struck me that I don't know if it was the direction or the script or whatever, but the wheels just kind of fell off here. Demi Moore does something that I still don't know what she was doing. She gets upset for no reason and then runs to the bed. I almost thought, did they put something in the food? Did they try to sedate them? I didn't know what was going on. But Chevy gets this idea and he gets into bed too. And yeah, the door opens.
And so what do they decide to do? They flee upstairs?
Yeah, I don't know why we don't go downstairs and out the front door. Let's go upstairs.
Yeah, just so ass backwards.
And so they get to this attic.
With all the IDs.
And they kind of start to put together. This part was genuinely creepy.
And why in the world would the judge want them to go up there? Just so they could be freaked out by it?
I guess.
And, you know, as great as Dennis appears to be, he has to be somewhat tacit in having this happen because it's been happening for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of me thought that maybe at this point the judge was trying to get them on his side. Because obviously he had a lot of people on his side. He'd been doing this for years. Maybe he had kind of gotten in his head, here's some money, we're broke, and maybe I can marry him off to my daughter or my granddaughter or whoever she is.
Maybe.
But what's the point of letting Chris and Diane out in the first place? Is it in the hopes that the judge can come up with an excuse that I can execute you now? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Maybe he was testing them. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, guys. It's beyond me.
Because he really does, with the moving walls and everything, leads them in that direction.
Yeah, he does.
In the meantime, we see that the BMW is being towed, and now it's getting stripped down. And then they're up in the attic. We're back up in the attic and smoking cigars. And then we have another door open.
And this is where they get separated, right? They go down two separate slides.
Yes. Why is there a slide?
I don't know. Because, again, this guy was an engineer and decided to build something.
You got to dump the bodies?
Yeah. Yeah, because clearly they're killing people and eating them. I'm going to go with you on that now, John. They were eating human in the hot dog scene.
Well, they don't waste anything in this town.
Right.
And why would you have the slide split?
I don't know, to separate your prey. And one of them leads outside.
Which I don't get either. Okay, so you want them to flee outside.
Well, it's convenient that he gets stuck inside because that's where the judge wanted him, and she gets stuck outside running around where he thinks she could possibly get free.
Well, I don't know about if she could possibly get free, but we are now introduced to two characters that I literally said, what the fuck? When I saw it.
Yeah, which is Dan Aykroyd's other character, Bobo.
Yeah. And then this other dude, and they're in full prosthetic makeup, and they look deformed, and they look like you. Now that you say it, it makes so much sense. They look like something out of The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah. Were they supposed to be scary, or were they supposed to be funny?
I'm assuming they were, in the script, I'm betting they were supposed to be scary, but since it was a comedy, they decided to make them funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a mess either way, and it took me out of it. What'd you guys think of these two clowns?
They were a waste of characters.
That and the design of them wasn't anything like I said, you kind of look at them and you went, oh, whatever.
I think a good way of describing this movie and the performance given by all these top tier actors that we had at the time, they totally just phoned this in.
I almost think that it fits our third criteria for movies that we review. Absolutely absurd.
Oh, I agree with you 100% on that.
So Eldona, she finds Diane, and she is all set to kill Diane, but the twins save her.
And did you hear what the twins say? We just want to play with her. Creepy.
Well, that brought me right to The Shining with the two little girls. Do you want to play with us? So Chevy Chase gets Thorne or whatever his name gets caught behind the wall, watching the judge get ready for bed. And when he takes his hair off, which again, kind of his head looked like a giant penis, and then he takes off his like face or his lip or whatever, and he's missing the front part of his face
and his nose.
Did you feel like it was kind of like a Phantom of the Opera kind of thing?
No, I remember saying, what the fuck? He took his fucking nose off, and they show it, and it was just like, I didn't fucking get it, right? And then he takes his leg off, and then he crawls into bed. And I'm thinking, this guy's 106 years old. He's pulling shit that should stay on, off. What the fuck are we watching?
You know, all I could think was, that bed looked awfully comfy.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Of course you did.
So the judge is he's lowering himself down to go into his courtroom, and then we have Chris come out and kind of sort of poke around a little bit. But the judge comes back.
And he gets caught. And this is where I think the judge gives him two choices. You can either die or you can marry my granddaughter.
Well, we also have the fight scene for a while where...
Yes, that's what happens next. There's a brief fight scene.
And I'm thinking a 106-year-old's putting up a pretty good fight against this guy.
Yeah.
But he does manage to get away from the judge, only to run right into Eldona.
Right. And then Eldona knocks him down.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and you've touched my granddaughter, so you've soiled her, so now you need to marry her.
Right. What a fucking rule, you know? You know how many wives I'd have?
Well, I kept thinking that maybe that's the whole reason. That was the plan of keeping him around.
To marry him off to Eldona?
Because Eldona looked Twitter-pated with Chris.
Yeah, because he even says, normally, I would, execute a banker, but I'm going to let it go this time because you're going to marry my granddaughter.
Right.
It's just a freestyle. Meanwhile, we keep the beat kicking. Sweat dripping. Girlies in the limo eating chicken. Oops, don't get the grease on your pantyhose. I love you, Robo. Move over. I gotta blow my nose. Sneezing, but still I'm pleasing. All of Slimmies. Pull out my Jimmy. Time to get busy with a Jenny.
Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Digital Underground is being held on charges of speeding. Elvin releases them after being charmed by an impromptu rap performance. He also asks them to stay as witnesses for the wedding, which Chris reluctantly goes through with in exchange for his life, but is later caught pleading with the band to help him escape. The band leaves without understanding him, and Elvin furiously sentences Chris to die in the Mr. Bone Stripper. The machine breaks down just before Chris is fed into it, and he escapes. Elvin nearly kills Diane with another claw contraption known as the garter teen. But Chris retrieves her at the last second, and the two jump on a freight train back to New York. After the two report their plight to the authorities, local and state police raid Elvin's courthouse. Chris and Diane are asked to accompany the FBI agents to Vulcanvania, only to find out that the state troopers involved are fully aware of and allied with Elvin since they dumped some of their captive lawbreakers on him. The couple escapes when the area's underground coal fire causes a colossal earthquake, fatally destroying Vulcanvania.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier, we always have to kind of give a little bit of foreshadowing. Did you catch all throughout the movie they kept talking about the coal fires underneath?
Yeah.
And so you knew that was going to be coming back at some point.
Yeah, and every once in a while we'd get a little rumble,
Yeah.
kind of like an earthquake, but they would always reference the coal fires.
So I figured there had to be something with that eventually.
Right. And so now Digital Underground shows up.
Yeah, we just have a musical break in the movie.
And which I didn't mind because, again, I really dig the song. And, just real quick, R.I.P. Humpty Hump. What did you guys think of this whole musical bit?
I got to ask a question. I used to like some of Digital Underground's music and Humpty Hump.
Humpty Hump.
And Humpty Hump. I know he wore that fake nose. The other guy with the mustache, was that him also without the nose?
Yeah, Shock G and Humpty Hump were the same guy.
That's what I wondered because I noticed when one was, the back was turned, the other one was facing forward, and then they switched.
Right.
So I always wondered if they were the same person.
Yep. Yes, they were. And we get a little brief cameo from Tupac. But other than that, I mean, come on. During this performance, the judge is moved. And
Gets on the organ.
He gets on the organ and starts playing it, and he starts...
riffing.
Yep. So it just goes to show you the power of music. And if you're ever in a courthouse and you need to get out of a speeding ticket, just start rapping.
I just wonder, like, what was the point of inserting them into the movie? Was it just to play off of the popularity of them at the time to help the movie along? Or do you think that was a big actual point to the movie?
I don't think it was a point to a movie at all. I think that Digital Underground was popular in 91, and Dan Aykroyd probably thought it would be fun to throw him in there. The song does well, and the song probably did better than the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we cut to Diane, and she's playing cards with the boys. And I was thinking that, okay, so she's probably scheming. How can she better her situation?
Right.
I thought it was so funny that earlier she was so freaked out by them, and now it's just a casual, like they're playing as old friends.
It kind of reminded me of when Princess Leia made friends with Wicket.
Mm-hmm. Now we hear from the judge that Chris, he has to marry Eldona or he's going to be put to death.
And he asks Digital Underground to stay and be witnesses, but they're like, nah.
What'd you think of the wedding kiss?
It was fine. I expected them to do it. I didn't think they would shy away from it. I think John Candy and Chevy Chase just jumped right into it. I thought it was funny. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was fine.
I did like the lead in of, I don't want to, in front of everybody.
Right. Well, he was trying to make excuses.
Yeah.
Typical Chevy.
But then Chris, he overplays his hand. He's yelling frantically at the band, wait!
Help me.
He's trying to get them to take him with him, and they're like, nah.
It's awfully convenient that when he gets set to the bone stripper, that's when it just decides to break.
Oh, come on.
There should have been some kind of lead in of maybe they had fixed it or maybe they had done something to it beforehand. But yeah, all of a sudden that's when it falls apart.
I think you're giving this movie way too much credit.
Yeah.
Even
the earthquakes could have done something to it.
Well, maybe they did. They just didn't explain it to us. Who knows? But either way, he doesn't go through the machine and he gets saved.
His life is spared.
Yeah.
We cut to Dennis. He's packing his suitcase, and it looks like that he's leaving for good.
Yeah, the twins or the siblings,
The
Brazilian heirs convinced him, to go with them and to escape.
And then we are introduced to that contraption, Miss Graderdine, and it's put into service, and we see it whack up all those watermelons.
Right.
And then, okay, that's where Diane's going to go next.
Again, the way the machine cut things, I kept thinking, well, that's how you want to cut up a big chunk of meat.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so you could store it and fillet it and do whatever you needed to do.
Put it into hot dogs.
Yeah.
And so she is asked to plead with Chris to come and, show up. And instead she yells, "Run for your life!"
I love how she's selfless at that point, telling him to run for life. And then she gets on the mic later with saying, when I told you to escape, I meant come save me.
Right. And so just as you think she's going to buy it.
Yeah, the judge says, I'll give you 5 minutes to show up.
Right.
And then we're down to the last possible second, and Chris, he is able to set an explosion off.
Which causes a diversion, and he is able to rescue Diane. And so they escape.
They flee, and they manage to make it to the train tracks. They hear a train coming, and they just barely get onto the train.
Right.
Did you feel the palpable tension of her not being able to make it? Like you were worried for 1 second she wouldn't get on that train?
No. This was not that movie. So they do get on the train and they do manage to find some authorities. Did you guys see this big twist coming? This double cross?
No, it was stupid.
I honestly thought when they got to whatever they were going that they were going to come back to the town and nobody was going to be there.
Oh.
That they were going to have some gadget that they could push and everything just hid.
Oh, well, I could see that. And when they come back and the twist is revealed that FBI and everybody are in on it.
All of the authorities, everybody.
Well,
yeah.
That's what bothered me.
I kind of saw it coming,
I kind of thought, okay, maybe 6 or 7 people could be in on it and all that. When they showed all of those cops behind him and they're all in on it, that, again, was so far-fetched that not one of them would think that this is wrong.
Hi, Judge Alvin.
Yeah. Like it was common practice, that the local authorities have been condoning and helping this this thing go on for all these years?
Well, it's kept their crime rates down.
Now that we're talking about this out loud, doesn't it kind of sound like Hot Fuzz for the greater good?
The
greater good.
A little bit.
You know, the village and the people taking care of the want-nots and
Yeah.
the vagrants.
A little.
A little bit, right?
So they ended up getting saved because the coal fires have started wreaking havoc on the grounds, and there's explosions that are happening now that are seriously jeopardizing everybody's lives.
Right, and so they managed to get out.
And I thought this was another missed opportunity because they could have, again, we're giving a lot of credit to the movie, but they could have developed a little further and said something along the lines of the explosion that Chris set off, maybe that started a chain reaction that eventually is leading to this. Why also now again, perfect timing to save them. Now the whole thing's exploding.
I see what you're saying, and they totally could have, but I guess it just wasn't in the cards.
And of course, as the explosions are happening, the whole town and area is being gobbled up.
Right.
Little poltergeisty.
A little bit.
Money big, the freaky deaky, the squeaky wicky up and down. Well, as a matter of fact, I'll be right back. I gotta take a leaky. So I'm draining entertainers, but I got fame and the bases I touch. Too much for me to try to be naming. Hey yo, you saw me
In Brazil, Dennis becomes Fausto and Ronaldo's head of security, and he vows that nobody will harm them on his watch. Back in New York, Diane wakes Chris from a daydream as the news broadcast of Volcanonia disaster is shown, where there is oil everywhere. In a twist ending, Chris sees Elvin on a news broadcast rummaging through the debris, where he states to the reporter that he and his family survived. While brandishing Chris's driver's license, Elvin announces to the reporter that he and his family plan to move in with his new grandson-in-law and vow to see that banker soon. This soon causes Chris to comically flee for his life, leaving a hole in the shape of him in the wall. Roll credits.
So again, I mentioned earlier, this whole thing with Dennis and the Brazilian heirs, just that whole side story just could have been even just left out of the movie. There was nothing to it.
Maybe that's the MO of this movie, was let's start a bunch of stories and just not go anywhere and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Because just like the Demi Moore storyline, that goes nowhere as well.
I mean, I'm thinking they crawled through toxic waste and all that, convinced this guy to help him, and yet now he's dating the sister.
Yeah.
And you have a bit at the end where all of the authorities, are on Judge Alvin's side, and somehow all that just kind of sort of goes away, after the explosions.
Yeah, just nothing is ever resolved in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only one that even dies is the lady cop who was sitting in the outhouse.
And then back in New York, Chevy Chase wakes up from a daydream. He's tripping out.
He's having a little nightmare during the day, yeah.
Yeah. And then what'd you guys think of this bit when he runs out of the fucking wall?
Dan Aykroyd and the writers and everything said that they couldn't come up with an ending. They didn't know what to do. So that was something they came up with at the last minute, and they have regretted it. They said it was just a quick fix just to end the movie.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was so Looney Tune.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And again, it's almost the dot on the I. It fits the way this movie was. It just, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm not sure I was even awake for that part. So there's that.
Nice.
And that's nothing but trouble.
Welcome to a new segment we like to call
Face the wheel.
The premise is simple. I will spin the wheel, and whatever category comes up, John and Don will apply it to the movie that we are reviewing. Once they have presented their idea, it's up to you, the listeners. Let us know via social media or our website which idea you liked best. Here are the categories: mashup, plot, rename, genre, reboot, fuck it, I liked it better when it was called spin again, pick any, Add any character from any movie. And here we go.
I was hoping for that.
And this week's category is fuck it.
Hey, Professor, can you tell us what fuck it means?
Other than fuck it,
Yeah.
it's kind of sort of a brash way of saying we're going to skip the wheel this week.
All right. And you know what? I fully support that decision. How about you, buddy?
I almost feel like the gods above have said what they think of this movie too with the wheel.
All right. So there you have it, listeners.
And that concludes this week's
Face the wheel.
All right. What do you guys think? You guys ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. John, are you ready to rate this flick?
Time to judge this flick and then make it ride, Mr. Bone Stripper.
Hey, Professor, how do we do our ratings?
We do our ratings on a scale of 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks is a movie that we think is cinematic gold. A 1 fuck movie is a movie where you watch it and you're kind of one and done. You know what? I'm never going to watch that again.
And what's a 0?
A 0 fuck movie is where you get done watching it, turn to your buddy and say, oh, for shit's sake, what the hell? Why would you make me watch? I want 1 hour and 34 minutes of my life back.
Or in other words, we just don't give a fuck. Professor, you picked this atrocity out of the fucking helmet, so you get to go first.
Get to being the operative phrase.
Hey, I didn't say have to, right?
No, you didn't. You said get to. And so, yeah, you know what? It's kind of like taking the Band-Aid off. Just do it quick.
Yeah, just rip this motherfucker open and let's get it started.
Nothing But Trouble was a movie that I haven't seen since I watched it on VHS, and I have to say that it's been every bit as forgettable as it was previously. The story languishes. We have top-billed actors at this time that are squandered, and unfortunately, because of such a weak script and a bizarro world that is built, I just don't know where to go with it. It, as I said at the beginning of the pod, it's like this crazy car clown ride, in some weird demented place. The judge character, I just didn't care for him at all. He was uncomfortable to look at. He was a deplorable person, and John Candy, as nice as he is, he's also somewhat responsible for having this continue on the way that it has been for all these years of this, story arc. And so, I'm just thinking that, okay, you know what? Who's there to like in this movie? Not really anybody. Diane, I guess a little. Clearly not Chris. He's a, class 1 prick. And so, not being able to get behind anybody, having a weak plot that has all of these loose ends to it. It's such a train wreck of a movie. It's a 1 fuck movie.
1 fuck from the Professor. What do you think there, Guy? You or me?
I can go next.
All right, buddy. You go next.
Roger Ebert was asked to review this movie and actually refused to even write a review for this movie. So I actually thought about doing that, but no, I will give my thoughts. I feel like Nothing But Trouble had an interesting premise for possibly a B-type horror film or comedy film. Take a group of folks, force them into a hell town run by an evil man whose family murders people. Right there, you have Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes, if you're going the horror route. Or stick to a comedy with one-liners and a lot of sarcasm, and you have Vacation or Fletch. But when you combine the two the way Dan Aykroyd did, combined with letting your actors run wild, you end up with a cartoony slapstick mess. I kept waiting for the Scooby Gang to show up and rip off the judge's mask to reveal that it was Old Man McHooter all the time. From start to finish, this movie was just a chaotic mess. I didn't sense chemistry from any of the actors, especially Chevy and Demi. There was no character development that I could see, and in many ways, the film felt like it was just miscast. In the end, Nothing But Trouble is just a jumbled mess of a film that struggles to find any type of footing and ultimately leaves the viewers more perplexed and entertained. I've heard in some circles this movie has become something of a cult classic, but I just don't see it. For me, it's one and done. But before I give my rating, Don, do you want to guess what I'm rating it this week?
Yes, I do want to guess, and you are going to give it 1.25 fucks.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
This week, I am giving Nothing But Trouble 1.25 fucks.
That's a bingo.
It's not the worst movie I've seen, and it had some potential, but sadly, it's mostly forgettable.
Yeah, I hear you there. 1.25 fucks from the comic book guy. Well, it's my turn. You know, I like to think that I can find one redeemable quality in a movie to save it from getting 0 fucks. And up until the moment where Digital Underground appears, this movie was going to get 0 fucks. From the opening to the end, it's a complete fucking mess. And I feel bad for Dan Aykroyd because we know him to be a brilliant writer, and we know what we get from Dan Aykroyd. I mean, the movies go on, and we talked about it earlier. Chevy Chase, same thing. John Candy, same thing. And Demi Moore, I mean, at the time, she's at the peak of her career, and you would expect this to be at least somewhat funny. I don't think I laughed once. If anything, I kind of got grossed out. The whole nose bit, the hot dog bit, it was just all over the place, and it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a horror movie or a comedy. There was no chemistry between Chevy Chase and Demi Moore. I think that John Candy's talents were ruined here, or wasted. That's probably a better way of saying it. They were wasted here, and it was just an overall mess. And for $45+ million, and this is what you get, I mean, wow. But on the flip side of that coin, Dan Aykroyd has admitted that this was horrible and he regrets it. And, you know, there's something to be said about that. And at the end of the day, the only reason why this is not getting 0 fucks from me is because of the Digital Underground performance and how much I love that fucking song. So for that, Nothing But Trouble gets 0.5 fucks. With 1 fuck from the professor, 1.25 fucks from the comic book guy, and 0.5 fucks from me, that gives Nothing But Trouble an average of 1 fuck, which now puts that in the 39th spot all by itself. It is slightly better than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2013 remake, Friday the 13th, the original, and A Nightmare on Elm Street, the 2010 remake. And it is slightly worse than 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag, The Natural, and Rock of Ages. So yeah, there you have it.
So would you recommend this movie to friends?
Oh, I would definitely not ever recommend this movie to anybody. Nobody should ever have to watch this movie.
Let's make Nolan watch it.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. I could be down with that. Poor Nolan. Why do you pick on him when he's not here?
I think we should invite him back next week, and while we watch the real movie, we make him watch this movie.
All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out our website. And speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at threeguysinaflick.com, where we go ahead and post all of our show notes and basically anything else we feel like posting there. You can also go ahead and use our form to submit the movie you would like us to review next. You can find us at all of social media, as well as any place that hosts podcasts. And wherever you're listening to us today, be sure to drop us a comment, a like, subscribe if you're not already. We would love to hear from you.
All right. I just want to thank Tatiana and Tyler for throwing nothing but trouble into the helmet. Kind of.
You really want to thank them?
Well, I mean, at least they're participating, right?
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
And even though we already recorded Big Trouble in Little China, you apparently didn't listen to that one.
I was getting there, bud. I was getting there.
Oh.
Yes, we did record Big Trouble in Little China, so you should go check that out. I also want to thank anyone who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For Three Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
And all around the world. And all around the world.
You don't think we should have a disclaimer saying we can't find a quote? Coming to you from the courthouse of the village of Vlakenvlavivava. What the fuck is it called?
Volcanvania.
Volcavania. Coming to you from the penthouse. Volcavania. Volcvania. What is it?
Vulcanvania.
The couple escapes with the area's underground coal fires. Huh?
The couples escape when? You said where?
What's the difference? The couple escapes when the arena's underground...
Area.
What?
Area, not arena.
Oh, for fuck's sakes!
I think this movie would have been better named Nothing But What the Fuck.
Or just, what the fuck?
Unless you want to read it again with some energy.
What is he, the fucking director over here?
Anybody else craving a hot dog now?
All right, what do you got?
I had a couple. Did you have any good ones for this one?
No, dude, I was on a plane for like 15 hours. I don't even know what day it is.
Well, mine just has to do with spelling. I put nothing but troubles, but B-U-T-T, so nothing but troubles.
Nothing but troubles.
So
Okay.
but troubles.
Got it.
And then the other one was nothing but gerbils.
Nothing but gerbils.
So but gerbils.
Yeah, nothing but tatas. I don't know.
Nothing but thank God it's over.
Yeah. This movie almost didn't warrant an opening quote or a porn name at the end. What do you got there, guy?
Nutting on butt gerbils.
Nutting on. That is awesome.
Leave it to the professor to come through when we need him the most.
Yes.
All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck off. Good night.
Not this and don't get me wrong, but to me it's just the same old song. So just watch, cause my name is Shock. I like to rock and you can't stop this. Tupac, go ahead and rock this.
Now I clown around when I hang around with the underground. Girls used to frown, say I'm down when I come around. Gas me, and when they pass me, they used to diss me, harass me. But now they ask me if they can kiss me. Get some fame, people change, wanna live their life high. Same song can't go wrong if I play the nice guy.
Claiming fame must have changed now that we became strong.
I remain still the
Why
same,
two?
cause it's the same song.